Hills family, thanks for joining us for this week's online teaching. I get the privilege of going over the Connect cards when we get them, and check out this one right here. Check out that. Anders, my main man, Moses. Filled that one out last week and marked interested in being baptized. Anders has been interested in getting baptized for a while, and next Sunday, the 21st, he is taking the plunge. I'm so excited to be a part of that. And I invite you to come and support Anders and others who are being baptized. If you are interested in being baptized, please let me know. We would love to help you take that next step in following Jesus. A couple things coming up at the end of the month. October 2nd and 3rd, I guess that's the start of the next month, not this month. We have two outreaches going on. October 2nd is a Thursday night. We're going to be at Jesus on Colfax, serving dinner there to our friends who live around East Colfax. If you are available to either bring some food, to come and get to know some folks down there, go to the website. You can sign up there. There's a sign-up genius for what you might be able to bring for the food. We still need quite a bit of food for that Thursday night. We always have a great turnout and ministering to people there on the street. Jesus in Colfax is a great ministry. We also need folks, I think I mentioned, to just stay and be present during the meal. And maybe you can do both. Bring some food, hang out for a while. That's on the Thursday night. The following night is the neighborhood trunk or treat at the Holly. And this is the Boys and Girls Club, the library, the rec center, the Hills Church stepping in and providing a fun, safe event for kids in the neighborhood. That is October 3rd. We'll have our bounce house there, our popcorn machine. We're looking for 2 or 3 people to decorate the back of your trunk. We'll provide the candy. So if you are available, you can come help us. That's that Friday evening. Again, sign up online on the events page. And whether it's helping us with the popcorn or the bounce house or helping us with a trunk, let us know. Now, last week, we were with Jesus on the mountaintop. In all of his glory, the text says that the appearance of Jesus' face changed and his clothes became as bright as a flash of lightning. And so King Jesus, he stands on the mountaintop. Moses and Elijah show up. A few of the disciples are there. They don't know what to do. But Jesus, in all of his glory, it is a mountaintop experience. And this is known as the Transfiguration. The Transfiguration is found in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It's interesting that every time the Transfiguration is mentioned, described, right after that, you have this completely different scene where Jesus comes down from the mountaintop. There is a desperate dad who has brought his son to the disciples, the 9 disciples who were not with Jesus on the mountain, and they can't heal him. And Jesus, spoiler alert, Jesus is going to heal this boy, set him free. And so it's this interesting juxtaposition of mountaintop, Jesus in all his glory, demon-possessed boy, seizures, foaming at the mouth. And I think in life, we would prefer if it was just mountaintop to mountaintop. Like, wouldn't that be nice? I'm reminded of the philosopher Olaf from the movie Frozen. Olaf is being chased by this snow monster, and the snow monster catches up, and he's like, "Oh, we're just talking about you. All good things. All good things."
There we go. Hey, Anna! Sven! Where'd you guys go? We totally lost Marshmallow back there. Hey! We were just talking about you. All good things? All good things? No!
I think that's the life that we desire. All good things. All good things. But it's one of the reasons that I trust the Bible. Like the narratives and the stories, is that it's real life. Like it has the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, and it shares it all. It doesn't sugarcoat life. And so in the narrative, and we're going to read it in just a moment, Jesus, he's with 3 disciples, Peter, James, and John. They're coming down off the mountaintop, and they encounter this desperate dad who is looking for answers. The disciples can't help him. So let's listen to Luke chapter 9, starting verse 37 from the Streetlights Bible.
The next day, after they had come down the mountain, a large crowd met Jesus. A man in the crowd called out to him, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son, my only child. An evil spirit keeps seizing him, making him scream. It throws him into convulsions so that he foams at the mouth. It batters him and hardly ever leaves him alone. I begged your disciples to cast out the spirit, but they couldn't do it." Jesus said,
"You faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you and put up with you?"
Then he said to the man,
"Bring your son here."
As the boy came forward, the demon knocked him to the ground and threw him into a violent convulsion. But Jesus rebuked the evil spirit and healed the boy. Then he gave him back to his father. Awe gripped the people as they saw this majestic display of God's power. While everyone was marveling at everything he was doing, Jesus said to his disciples,
"Listen to me and remember what I say. The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of his enemies."
But they didn't know what he meant. Its significance was hidden from them, so they couldn't understand it, and they were afraid to ask him about it.
This is a story of a desperate dad and a dynamic deliverer. A desperate dad and a dynamic deliverer. Now that was the Streetlights Audio Bible. If you're looking for a different way to consume Scripture, listen to Scripture, you might check out the Streetlights Audio Bible. Very well done. Just Google Streetlights Audio Bible. So we have the scene. Jesus comes down off the mountaintop. A crowd has gathered already. Jesus has just been there a few minutes. And I'm guessing that there are those in the crowd who are looking for some deliverance, looking for healing. But there is one person, this dad, who is more desperate than all the others. And he works his way to the front of the crowd, and we see his desperation in several ways. First of all, the text says he cries out. He cries out. When was the last time that you cried out in desperation to Jesus? I think for most of us, our prayers are probably pretty sanitary, pretty, just not desperate. They are not desperate. But here we have a desperate dad, and he is like, "Jesus! Jesus! I need you!" He cries out to Jesus. Next, we see the father's desperation is that he begs Jesus. There is nothing pretty about begging. There's no way to sanitize it. There's no way to beg in a dignified manner. Like you are at your wit's end and it's all you have left. It's demoralizing. It's humiliating. But the Father doesn't care. And spiritually, we are all beggars. We all come to God recognizing that we have nothing and that God has all things. And we see the desperation as he asks Jesus to look at his son. The Father begs Jesus to look at his son, the text says. And the word translated for look means more than just a passing glance, but it means to gaze with favor or with pity, to really observe, to look closely at my son is what the Father is asking here. And we see the desperation when he mentions that this child is his only child. Not only is his son sick, it is his only son, his only child. The same Greek word is used in John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. It's the same word here. This father said, "This is my one and only son." An only son was extremely important to a father in the first. I mean, in any culture, having an only child, or I guess all children are important. What I'm trying to say, though, is in the first century, like having children was important for a number of reasons. It was important economically for your family. It was important for security. There was no social security when you got older. There was no nursing homes to go into. Like if you didn't have family to take care of you, then you were in a tough spot. And this was his father's only son. And if I had to guess, he's likely had other children. The survival rate of children in the first century was extremely low. Nearly half of kids died before the age of 5. That's hard for us to imagine. Half of the kids dying before the age of 5. And so moms and dads knew they had to have multiple children because it was likely that some of them were going to die before they reached adulthood. And so I'm just guessing he's had other children. Maybe this is his last son, or maybe his wife had died in childbirth. But it's a desperate situation. And so the father comes to Jesus and he boldly asks, Jesus, I'm asking that you would give my son your undivided attention. Your undivided attention. And I think we're afraid, or maybe we're hesitant to approach God like this. Like we think God and the world hunger and wars and dictators. I mean, and this week was a doozy. You've got Russia invading Poland in a way, drones being shot down, and Poland saying, like, this is the closest we've been to war since World War II. That happened this week. We had political assassination and sides casting blame and just a rising political unrest in our country. We had the shooting in Evergreen, another school shooting. And so I wonder if we see these big things happen that, I mean, they impact us, obviously. They impact our kids. They're going to school, and maybe that is your desperate prayer to God about these large matters. But maybe you're hesitant to bring your own desperation to God because you think, like, man, he's got all these other things to worry about. Why would he have even time to hear my prayers? Friends, this dad, he probably knew all these things. He did not care. He brings his desperation to Jesus. The father describes the boy's symptoms in detail in verse 39. He says, often the spirit seizes him. Suddenly he shrieks and it throws him into convulsions until he foams at the mouth, wounding him. It hardly ever leaves him. So it seizes him. He shrieks, convulsions, foaming at the mouth, wounding him, hardly ever leaves him. This is a very succinct verse describing the son's ailments, right? A wounding, in other translations say it bruises him, it tortures him. When it says it hardly ever leaves him, I just get the picture like this is an ongoing, daily, regular occurrence for this son. And the father's desperation, like it is proportional to the son's suffering and to his own suffering, his own suffering. So, and I think that God uses our suffering to lead us away from some self-delusion. Self-delusion that we've got things under control, that we're able to navigate life on our own. Suffering changes all of that. Suffering moves us from complacency to dependency. Suffering moves us from complacency to dependency. The dad describes his malady, and then he throws the disciples under the bus. Verse 40, I begged your disciples to drive it out, but they couldn't. Like, I begged your disciples, but they couldn't do anything. And you can just imagine the disciples. Like, they're gathered around, and we're hoping, like, please don't say anything. Please don't say anything. Man, really, dude? You had to throw us under the bus? Or chariot, first century, no buses. The word there, when it says they couldn't, it could be translated powerless. And it's the opposite word that we have in Acts 1, where Jesus says that they would receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on them. This is like the anti-power. They had no power. And this is a sad indictment on the disciples. Because earlier in this same chapter, like you go to the top of chapter 9, and Jesus gave his power and authority to the disciples so that they could do this very thing. And they did it. But now, we're not sure how much time has passed, not a whole lot of time. This sick child is brought to them, and they are powerless. And Jesus is none too pleased. Verse 41, Jesus replied, you unbelieving and rebellious generation, how long will I be with you and put up with you? Bring your son here. A desperate dad meets a dynamic deliverer. And the reason we call him a dynamic deliverer is because what he does here in this passage, back to back to back to back. First, he reproves the disciples. He rebukes them. He corrects their lack of faith. Now, I grew up in a denomination that prayed big prayers, that believed God for big things. And sometimes there were excesses, but like if somebody was sick, you knew who in the church you wanted to pray for you, because they had this big faith. They would pray these big, hairy, audacious prayers and just trust God and see what he would do. I feel like in my own life, I've been inoculated against praying big prayers, if I'm honest. And I think one of the reasons is because I've prayed some prayers and then seemingly nothing's happened. And so I pray big prayer, nothing happens. Pray big prayer, nothing happens. And so after a while, I was like, oh, I guess I'm not going to pray those big prayers anymore. But what if there were some folks in the Hills Church who weren't afraid to pray big, desperate kind of prayers, the kind of prayers that demonstrate a faith in Jesus, the kind of prayers that honor Jesus by how big they are. Like, God, this is beyond me. I can't do this. I can't, with just a little bit of tweaking. Like, I need you to come through. Like, what if we had some people in the Hills Church that were like that we knew when somebody was sick, like, go get so-and-so. Go get sister so-and-so. Bring them over. Let's lay hands on someone. Let's pray the prayer of faith and see someone healed. And what would that do for the rest of us? We begin to see that, like, man, maybe I could pray prayers like that. So Jesus, he rebukes the disciples for their lack of faith. And then he rebukes the demon. He restores the boy and he returns him to his father. Just bop, bop, bop. The disciples could do nothing. Jesus is like, here, hold the Father gives his son to Jesus. And then Jesus gives him back to the Father restored. The Father gives his son to Jesus, and Jesus gives him back to the Father restored. Jesus says, cast your cares on me. I care for you. Like, what are you holding on to? What is broken in your life that you need to give to God? What is the struggle you've been trying to walk through in your own power? Before living in Denver, we lived up in Summit County, up in the mountains. And there's one thing about living in the mountains is that everything is so expensive. You take your vehicle, oil change. It's like $350. Maybe not that high, but it's high. And the first couple of years we lived in the mountains, I would pray over those cars, like, God, please don't let it break down. I'm gonna take it to the shop. They're gonna quote me some exorbitant price, and then we're gonna be out of funds for the week. And then I learned that my coworker Calvin would work on vehicles after hours. He was a mechanic, so I worked for the town. He worked for the town, but he worked in the town shops and took care of the town's fleet, so all the vehicles, the buses, and all the different vehicles. But after work, he was allowed to use the shop, and so when I learned that, I started taking my vehicle to him, and it was a match made in heaven, me and Calvin. And I would come in and be like, all right, Calvin, here's the deal. It's going like, bop, bop, bop. And he'd be like, oh yeah, I got you. And then he wouldn't upcharge the parts. So whatever his costs were is what he passed on to me. And I think he charged some ridiculously low, like maybe $40 an hour, which for a good mechanic is pretty cheap. And a lot of times he gets something done in half an hour. So I walk out, he's like, how much? He's like, $20. I'm like, great. And we had this car that required, take a look at this car right here. This is our 1996 Dodge Intrepid. I happen to have a picture of it in said garage. Look at that paint job. You know what I'm talking about? That is custom faded paint job right there. It was a beast in the snow. It was great. Some studded tires. There was no snowstorm in the mountains that would conquer that Dodge Intrepid. But Intrepids, especially as they got older in years, were not known for their reliability. And so I'd have to reach out to Calvin on the regular, and he would fix the car. Now imagine if I came to Calvin and was like, hey man, here's the issue. He's like, all right, I got you. Just bring it to the garage. Give me the keys. And I'm like, well, what do you mean, give you the keys? And he'd be like, well, in order for me to fix the vehicle, I need to take it into the garage. I need the keys. I'll fix it, and then I'll give it back to you. But I don't know, Calvin. I didn't sign up for that. Like, I want you to, but I want you, like, that would be foolish, because we know, like, in order for a mechanic to fix a vehicle, like, he has to have control of the vehicle, he has to have the keys to the vehicle. And I think sometimes in our faith, like, we come to Jesus, and Jesus says, he's like, give me your life. Give me your dreams. Give me your desires. Give your plans to me. And we sit there and we're like, whoa, Jesus, hold on now. Like, that's not what I signed up for. I want all this to be fixed. I want this mess to be made better. I want these things to be restored. But I don't know if I can give it all to you, Jesus. I don't know if I can give you the keys. And now Jesus can't fix. He cannot restore what we do not give him. In order for something to be restored by Jesus, it has to be released to Jesus. And so the question for us today, and I'm coming to a close here, is what do you need to give to Jesus? What in your life is broken? What have you been trying to fix yourself that you need to give over completely to Jesus? The Father in this account, he realizes this, and he places his only begotten Son into the hands of the deliverer. And the boy is restored and returned to the Father. And then this story concludes with, in verse 43, they were all astonished at the greatness of God. While everyone was amazed at all the things he was doing, he told his disciples, let these words sink in. The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men. But they did not understand the statement. It was concealed from them so that they could not grasp it, and they were afraid to ask him about it. Whenever Jesus says, let these words sink in, we should pay attention. I like how some other translations add, let these words sink into your ears. Like, get it in there. Let these words sink in. And in the crowd at this moment, they're amazed at Jesus. The disciples are amazed. He does in a moment what they could not do altogether. And what he says to them, let these words sink in, is that I'm about to be betrayed. They don't understand what he's talking about. Like, what's about to happen? And we have the hindsight of looking back. But I think just as the Father handed over his only Son for healing, God the Father is about to hand over his Son for our ultimate healing, our ultimate deliverance. Jesus on the cross, that's what he's pointing to here. Like, this is how this story concludes. Like, he's pointing towards the cross, that where he bears our burdens, our brokenness, our sin, our shame, and through his resurrection offers us new life. And so the question is, like, what are we holding on to that needs to be released? Is it fear? Is it control? Is it a relationship, a dream? Jesus is saying, whatever it is, bring it to me. Grace and peace.